Hello everyone, my name is LaRon D.Stone and I'll be talking to you about the 49ers Gold Rush. The California 49ers Gold Rush began from 1848 to 1855 and began on January 24, 1848, when gold was found by James W. Marshall at Sutter's Mill in Coloma, California. All told, the news of gold brought some 300,000 people to California from the rest of the United States and abroad. Of the 300,000, approximately half arrived by sea, and half came overland from the east on the California Trail and the Gila River Trail. The gold seekers were called 49ers as a reference to 1849 when they discovered gold. Traveled by sailing ships and covered wagons, and often faced substantial hardships on the trip. While most of the newly arrived were Americans, the gold rush attracted tens of thousands of Latin Americans, Europeans, and Australians and Asians. At first, loose gold and gold nuggets could be picked up off the ground. Later, gold was recovered from streams and riverbeds using peak technological advances reached a point where significant financing was required, and mining capacity became important. Gold worth tens of billions of today's dollars were recovered, which led to great wealth for a few. However, many returned home with only little more than what they had originally started with. The effects of the gold rush were sustainable. San Francisco grew from a small settlement of about 200 residents in 1846 to a boomtown of about 36,000 by 1852. Roads and other towns were built throughout California in 1849. A state constitution was written, and a governor and legislator were chosen, which meant that since it was only a small town, they had no legislator or no governor of California by that time. So roads and towns were built throughout California in 1849, and it was written, and a governor and legislature were chosen. California became a state as part of the Compromise of 1850. New methods of transportation developed as steamships came into regular service by 1869. Railroads were built across the country from California to the eastern United States. Agriculture and ranching expanded throughout the state to meet the needs of other settlers. At the beginning of the gold rush, there was no law regarding property rights in the gold fields, and a system of staking claims was developed. The gold rush also resulted in attacks on Native Americans who were often forcibly removed by their lands. Gold mining also caused harms to lakes and rivers. So, here's the history. The California Gold Rush began at Sutter's Mill near Coloma on January 24, 1848, by James W. Marshall, a foreman working for the Sacramento pioneer. John Sutter found shiny metal at the tail race of a lumber mill Marshall was building for Sutter on the American River. Marshall brought what he found to Sutter, and the two privately tested the metal. After the test showed that it was gold, Sutter expressed dismay. He wanted to keep the news quiet because he feared that what would happen to his plans for an agricultural empire if there was a mass search for gold. However, rumors soon started to spread and were confirmed in March 1848 by San Francisco newspaper publisher and merchant Samuel Brannan. The most famous quote for the California Gold Rush was by Brannan after he had hurriedly set up a store to sell gold prospecting supplies. Brannan strolled through the streets of San Francisco holding a loft vial of gold, shouting, "Gold! Gold! Gold from the American River." At the time gold was discovered, California was part of the Mexican territory of Alta California, though it had been occupied by the U.S. in the Mexican American War. The area was ceded to the U.S. in the Treaty of Gallup Hidalgo on February 2nd, 1848. Less than 2 weeks after the discovery. On August 19, 1848, the New York Herald was the first major newspaper on the East Coast to report the discovery of gold. On December 5, 1848, President Polk confirmed the discovery of gold in an address to Congress. Soon, waves of immigrants from around the world, later called the 49ers, invaded the gold country of California, or Motherlode, as Sutter had heard. He was ruined. His workers left him in search for gold, and squatters took over his land and stole his crops and cattle. San Francisco had been a tiny settlement before the rush began. When residents learned about the discovery, at first it became a little ghost town where nobody actually